Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning into this Karmik Channel's broadcast, one of many going forward. In each one, we will try to cover one or two subjects predominantly and any others that decide to float in. Well, Ron, I don't think there's too much that I don't already know about you, but I know our listeners are probably curious. How did you realize that your intuition was as strong as it is, and has it always been that strong, or did it develop over time? Can you tell us about that, please?
Well, my firm belief is that we all are born with intuition. It's natural for us as humans. It's a gift that we all have. Some just are more sensitive than others at a very early age. And I feel as far back as I can remember, between 4 and 5, that I sensed that there was this energy around me, and it wasn't a scary energy. It was more of a comfort energy around me. And I picked up on that there was more than just one that was observing me, following me, and listening to me, even though I wasn't talking to them at that point. I just thought everyone had the same thing, so I didn't discuss it or ask about it, bring it up, or anything like that. But as I started to get older, between 8 and 10, I realized that there was more to it because the connection between me and this energy or the energies was becoming more intense, where I noticed that they were with me all the time. They were communicating to me not only as a comforting communication, but it was more of a heads up, trying to keep me safe. And it wasn't that I was hearing voices, I sensed it. I was at ease with their presence because I knew that they didn't mean me any harm.
How did that energy affect you as you went through your school years, and also how did it impact your relationships, like your family and friends?
Well, let me backstep a minute. One of my brothers had taken his own life when I was about around 10 years old, and the way I dealt with that was not necessarily through my emotions. It was more of a direct sense that this was supposed to have happened and that I sensed it before it happened. And I started discussing this openly with a few of my siblings. Of course, I was being ignored and they were basically thinking I was crazy. But when I had a discussion with my mother, she reminded me of different discussions that I had with her when I was younger in regards to premonitions I was having, sensing these energies around me. She said that she didn't feel the energies around her and the rest of my siblings didn't. And she knew this, and she knew that I was special in that sense. After my brother passed away, it became harder for me to express myself or find anyone that had similar activity going on. And so I clammed up, I went inward and pretty much tried to stifle it for myself in order to get through school and develop friendships like everyone else had. So I just indulged myself into school, into sports, anything that was going to keep my mind and myself active and not thinking about it so much.
What did you do after you graduated high school?
I joined the military, and I was also engaged to my high school sweetheart. She was also pregnant, and we basically went to basic training together, did all of that preliminary work to get into the military, ended up restructuring my military career into the National Guard because being a newlywed with a pregnant bride, there was no opportunities for me in the field that I was in, and I was in the military police. I had trained for that. And so we came back to Minnesota where we raised our children. We had 2 beautiful boys. I was indulged in a full-time job at the sugar beet factory nearby, and also I was selling real estate at the time. So I was constantly looking for things to keep my mind active and not think so much about the spiritual and the intuitive side of myself. Basically just went on keeping myself busy, working, and doing the things that people normally do.
When you were in the military, you said military police. What drove you to go into the military police?
At a young age, I was very interested in becoming a police officer because my uncle was a police officer, and I wanted to experience that type of career for myself because I felt that I would enjoy it. Of course, at the time, not thinking about the dangers that it posed with that career. So I joined the military police. I figured that that was the best way to get some free training and some experience. I ended up getting more than that through my association with the military because there was an opportunity to open up freely with my intuitive side, which led me to sign up for a 2-week course of study in Georgia for profiling. The 2-week period was to give the candidates a taste of what it was like to profile, to hone those skills. Well, a lot of that experience brought out more and more of my intuition. I became stronger. Just in that 2-week period of time, I felt like a free spirit, able to discuss and speak about my gifts. I did very well in that 2-week period. However, I did not sign up for their full course, which would have been about a year and a half worth of training. And it was very interesting during the process, the skills that they were trying to find within each and every candidate. And part of the skills training was, just for that 2-week period of time, was to be on a panel of other candidates. And a couple of them, I think, were enrolled in the program, for the year-and-a-half program already. So they were already trained and skilled. We were basically going through an interview process with people already in the armed forces from different branches, going from one rank to the other. And we're talking about officer training material. For example, a lieutenant going to a captain rank. And we were to interview the candidate, and at the end of the interview process, take notes and explain why we felt that the candidate was in a good position for promotion or was not. And we had to explain our findings basically through profiling and the techniques that they trained us on. But what I found, as many of the others on the panel found, that they were using their instincts, their gut instincts, their intuition, and not just basically watching the individual's body language. We were all kind of tapped into the energy of the individual that came up in discussion after each and every one of the candidates were in front of us. So it was very interesting to me to discover or rediscover where I was at with the intuitive side of myself, and that it was starting to come to the surface once again, but even stronger than when I put it on the shelf years earlier.
I think people often take for granted the fact that many industries actually rely on their intuition. We just call it different things. And as an example, like a therapist, they are trained to observe. But I think any real good therapist, they just naturally use their intuition and their empathic abilities to pick up on the underlying current of what's going on with someone so that they can help them. And it sounds to me that the military kind of helped you, like you said, rediscover and kind of evaluate for yourself where you were at with your intuition. Although that's, of course, not why many join the military, but it is definitely a big part of what they do and how they kind of move people up in the military.
Yes, and it's ongoing today. They've used that for many years. But that's not why I joined the military, of course, but it was just a benefit of joining the military. It just was, timing was perfect. And as you and I always discuss amongst ourselves and with our clients about connecting the dots and the aspect of synchronicity in one's life. You know, as you mentioned just a minute ago in regards to people developing their intuition in their different careers, that is very valid. And I would just point out a few of the industries where the people that work in that industry pretty much have to develop that over a period of time in order to become good at what they do. You can take the medical field, for instance. Those that work on a consistent basis in the ER are constantly doing a triage in their mind and working side by side with each other. They have to use their intuition as much as possible, but it spans over many industries, not only just for public safety.
Well, I would also throw in restaurants into that equation. What makes a successful restaurant versus one that flops?
That's correct. And this is, too, why some people excel no matter where they work. They excel to the top of where they can reach, is because they naturally tap into and listen to their intuition as they're learning more skills and gaining more knowledge about the job and the work. They are naturally successful. The ones that don't are the ones that are not paying any attention to their intuition and thinking that the intuitive signals that are actually coming from their spirit and spirit guide is part of their consciousness. So there's some confusion going on there with why some people are successful and some people are not.
And that's a great point, because some of the most successful people out there have little to, in some cases, no education for what they're doing, but yet are somehow a success. And what drives a lot of that is a strong intuitive sense and a drive to be open to different kinds of learning, whether it's related to that industry or not.
So how I evolved to the point where I am today, literally doing this full time, is pretty interesting, but we wouldn't be able to do it in just one broadcast. We'll sprinkle that out throughout the rest of our broadcasts in the future. However, I want to say that the ones out there that are wondering about themselves and their own intuition, it's basically about taking your mind and everything out of the equation and allowing your intuition to guide you by taking baby steps, okay? And as that gets stronger and stronger, you're naturally going to drift away from paying attention too much to your conscious mind and leaning more towards your spiritual side. Throughout the rest of our future broadcasts, we'll be conversing about the subject of karmic channels, how it came to be, what our strengths and visions are as a collective.
We are going to be doing topics, and we will take your questions. At this point, we're going to say that we're not going to be making any predictions on air or anything of that nature, but we'll definitely answer your general questions. And also, we will be recording some channeling sessions coming up. So if you have questions for Karmikal, you're welcome to submit them. Email them to us at contact@karmikchannels.org, and that's KARMIK channels.org. So contact@karmikchannels.org to submit your questions. And keep in mind, though, with channeling, that they do not make personal predictions, but they will also answer your questions about spiritual topics.
If you have any suggestions as far as what the topics you want to hear, let us know. You can include that in your email as well. We appreciate you listening tonight, and we look forward to more broadcasts with more information in the very near future. Thank you.